Is there a role in the creator economy that you haven't been part of?
Today on Secret Leaders, we're talking to Caspar Lee. We're diving into one of the most fascinating shifts in modern business.
We invested in a company called Face It, which sold for 1.5 billion.
From being one of YouTube's biggest stars with over 7 million subscribers, he co-founded Influencer.com, which now employs over 100 people. He launched a management company with WME and runs a $20 million venture fund investing in early stage startups.
There was this underlying anxiety as a creator, I think, especially as a creator from the new world. You're the one person a journalist wants to go after.
What was your secret to business success?
Somehow convincing really good people to work with me.
Whether you're a creator trying to break free from the content hamster wheel or a business leader trying to understand how to leverage creators effectively, this conversation is packed with insights you won't hear anywhere else. Let's get into it.
Caspar, welcome to Secret Leaders.
Thank you for having me.
Most welcome. Is there a role in the creator economy that you haven't been part of?
That's a good. I've never worked for a platform. That'd be interesting to actually make decisions about how your algorithms are going to affect billions of people. But no.
Well, you mean a major social media platform?
Yeah. No, exactly. Like a social platform. But yeah, we'll get to work with a bunch of those people. But I haven't done that. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of roles in the creator economy. I've been lucky enough to do a few. I've been a creator. I'm an entrepreneur and an investor and get to work with amazing companies. But yeah, I didn't actually know what the creator economy was when I started. I just thought it was like making weird YouTube videos, and it's just turned into this massive thing.
But I've even been, I don't know if you remember this, but a few years ago, I think LinkedIn were asking you how creators should be on LinkedIn, and I was in that room.
Oh yeah,
before I had any
followers. But you're way bigger on LinkedIn. No.
Yeah, I didn't have any followers.
Surely not.
Yeah, at the time, yeah.
So you created this monster.
Jeez, I'm very sorry, everyone.
Yeah.
That's shocking to me because you must have grown very quickly after that event. What did you do?
Yeah.
Well, he listened to what you said. You should take your own advice, Caspar.
You take the opposite advice to everything I said.
I can't actually remember what we talked about in the day, but I had like a very small following, and then you were talking about how LinkedIn were talking about how they thought LinkedIn was going to be a place for creators, and I remember being like, I think that probably is a thing that we could put some time into, and then pretty much from around then till now, it's gone mad.
Yeah. And what was the advice I gave you that you took away to build your LinkedIn?
Chris, can you please frame it as these are 3 ways to grow your LinkedIn in just 60 seconds?
I genuinely at the time I don't remember what specifically we were talking about, other than
just make something up, just pretend.
Yeah, like other than the idea that. Well, the thing we did talk about
what
is...
incredible wisdom did Caspar offer you, Chris?
the audience is going to be really affluent on LinkedIn.
Okay.
As in...
I was obviously talking about the affluency of an audience. That was what I was
as in, like, all business people are going to be on LinkedIn, but probably won't be on the other social platforms. Yeah. And so I thought that was a very interesting thing. If you were to build any... Because I've always done B2B businesses historically. If you're going to build anything, that was probably where you should build. Wow. And then, from there to now, get like 20, 30 million views a week.
That's the best thing about giving advice. I feel like you can give advice. It might be terrible advice for people, but if someone happens to be in the room and goes on to do great things, you can be like, that was me.
Well, there you go.
It is interesting, right? Because it actually depends, like you say, whoever's in the room, how open they are and where they are on their journey at that moment. Whether your advice is exactly the right one for them or not, you can still spark a change, and they have to still go and figure it out along their way. Like, no one ever read one post or listened to one talk and followed that entire strategy to the nth degree, but you decide... but you do decide that that's the right advice for your career, your next step, and then you obviously figured out how to do it to the nth degree, but you heard the right information for you at the right time.
Yeah. No, it's great. I mean, I get asked for advice now and again. And sometimes I struggle because I'm like, it's so nuanced. Every situation is so nuanced. But I think what I've learned is like, obviously, like, you can give some broad advice, and it's sometimes people will take what they need from it to their nuanced situation. You don't have to try and get in the specifics. But also the other thing is like just asking them good questions, I think, is especially when I work with team members in the business, like a lot of these people are way smarter. They know what they're doing way more than I do. So like if I can maybe ask interesting questions, I think that's kind of become the more valuable way than just giving kind of advice. And so that's the only thing when you're sitting on stage. You can't ask everyone a bunch of questions, so you have to try and figure out another way to do that.
So most interesting thing that I've understood about what you've mastered is getting out of this creator trap, right? So the biggest challenge with a lot of creators, but a lot of people building an audience is it's a hamster wheel and can sometimes be a one-way street. And you can also get addicted to that fame and not really plan what your personal exit strategy is. And I think you've been very rare in this space to really give that proper consideration and also showing ridiculous maturity from an early age on that. You haven't sort of wasted. Yeah, but it's true, right? It's very rare. You want to
Stop it.
Sorry, I was talking to Chris. Yeah, was I?
You never said anything like that to
was
me.
I hell? Yeah, well, if you start doing this shit, maybe I will. If you start showing some maturity like this.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, but it is prescient, rare, and
I don't even know
really
what that
no
word
one,
means.
really no one else has done it.
Prescient.
So I want you to actually explain what led to that decision. It felt like you could almost see round corners with it, and also how important that's been for you.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. That's great. I'm going to clip that up and put it on LinkedIn, and you can give me a repost. I think that I don't think I saw kind of I don't know how many years it's been since I started, maybe 3-4 years. I don't think I kind of had this goal. I just, I knew that, I think earlier, I don't know if it will be in the podcast, but you asked me like questions, how do you have a sustainable career as a creator, or how do you have a successful career as a creator? And I think one of the answers I gave was, don't make the content about yourself, make it about something bigger than you. And I didn't take my own advice at the time. My content, even though I'd bring in I'd do interviews, try and get other people in, like every week I was trying to reinvent what I was doing, and it relied on me being relevant. And I saw that to do that, you had to get like more and more extreme. You had to like maybe do some sort of boxing event, and I'm not very strong.
You could have beefed up.
Oh, thank you. But I thought like, okay, there's going to be a time when this stops working for me. There was, I also built the audience when I was like a teenager.
Yeah.
And some people would subscribe because I was cute. Some people subscribe because I was funny, and like, that kind of thing was going to change over time as I got older, especially as I started businesses. I wasn't able to make the same jokes. Like, I didn't feel like I could. And as I got older, I just didn't find the same things funny. And so rather than like really struggling away to kind of redefine the channel, I was like, this might be a good opportunity to focus on the other things that are working in my life, which at the time was influencer.com. We had already started. It wasn't like I started it afterwards. It had already started. MVE management. And, I also think the other thing was YouTube is really kind of a full-time gig, like if you want to do it well. And I didn't want to just not do it to the best of my abilities. So I thought, let me take a couple weeks off to focus on the businesses, see if I can build a team for YouTube and like do it how I do other things, which is like, it's not all just me. But I never figured that out. And I kind of just decided after like a few years, okay, maybe I have stopped that. And so, I could sit here and be like, it was all planned. And I think a lot of people do that with hindsight. But for me, it was very iterative. However you say, how do you say it? Iterative?
Yeah, iterative. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm South African. We don't speak English very well.
So that's interesting, right? Because obviously a lot of people in your space, might also come to this conclusion after burnout or after exhaustion or after something worse, right?
Yeah.
After just so much trolling that their mental health takes a turn or whatever. And do you feel like you avoided that extremity?
Yeah, I definitely avoided the extremity of like the issues people face. I think it's weird how some people just become the center of hate, and some people become even the center of like what newspapers talk about. There's some YouTubers who are absolutely massive. You search their names on the news, it never comes up. And there's some who are just like, quite big, and like every newspaper article is about them. And so I kind of avoided all of that. I was always like in the background, never the top. And I think that helps, because I think when you're on top, people do kind of tend to go after you. There were times where I made like a few mistakes, like where I made videos that I regret making, but there was never like one big moment or one big crazy thing. And so that was good. But there was this like underlying anxiety as a creator, I think, that I was always a bit worried, like, what if I do something or say something a little bit off and everything collapses? I think that's something. It's not just for creators. I think in general we live in a world now where you do kind of worry about these things, especially when you build a brand,
Yeah.
be it your own or you work for a brand or you're part of a big corporation, you got to be careful. But I think as a creator, you really rely on like what people think of you, and that can be quite like mentally draining if you really care.
Yeah, and things can go wrong very, very quickly. You know, the Logan Paul thing I always think is quite an interesting one. He's managed to come back from it, but he made that awful video, the Japanese woods video, and his whole thing just died. You know, his whole brand died, and it really came back when they did the boxing thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's gone. He came back, then he went and did other things, then he came
crypto
back. Then
scam, and then came
I don't know
back.
where he is right now. I think
Yeah.
the BBC might say something else today, but like, yeah, it's. I think people like that actually, going back to like how do you stay relevant? I think some people have, you know, they let's say you love Logan Paul's videos, that's great, but let's just say he makes the same sort of standard as everyone is, for argument's sake. One of the big reasons I think people like him are so big is because of this constant like up and down.
It's true.
And I think
He's great at getting attention.
exactly,
There's
and
the
that
drama,
helps.
yeah.
But I think that comes with a mental toll where maybe someone like him can handle. But I think someone like, you know, I don't even want to compare myself. We're so different, but that wouldn't be a life for me at all. Like it would be I don't care, you know, if I can fly private. I don't care if I can sell out an arena. If I'm constantly going through these emotional things, I can't handle it. But maybe he can. Maybe some people literally just don't care.
What do you think
that
keeps
could be the
people
business
stuck?
model though? Like he could, and him and his brother, they could be like, we're just going to create as much top end drama as possible, and it will filter down into fame.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When
it's
it does filter
interesting.
down into
And
fame.
the question is how much of it is planned or how much of it is just like naturally them.
Totally.
And yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely people who I think a part of it is like people maybe make mistakes, but then they realize, oh wait, this mistake is actually an opportunity. Or like, I think JJ, for example, who I love, KSI, like he's, you know, his recent song came out. I don't know if you saw, like, people were kind of making fun of it, but he really leaned into that. And, like, he turned that into, like, a huge opportunity, and it got so many views. And actually, it kind of grew on me, the song, and I kind of like it. But I'm not a musical maestro, so.
What do you think keeps so many people stuck on that hamster wheel, though, right? Because, you know, yes, you can have the extreme experience, and that will obviously take you off the hamster wheel. But, you know, there's the other side of it, which is you don't necessarily notice the toll it's having on you, but you're stuck because now that's your career. Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of, it's not as stressful probably as running a public company, but there's kind of similar traits in that everyone knows exactly how well you're doing. Yeah. And a lot of people remind you of it, so they can see your views. I think Spotify is quite cool as a platform because it's kind of one of the only places it's not exactly obvious how many views this podcast is going to get. Which makes me excited because even if this fails on YouTube, I can be like, guys, it's killing it on Spotify. Don't worry.
We are killing it on Spotify.
Exactly. And
millions of views.
Exactly. And I just think that YouTube is like, you know, people act like they don't look at that stuff. A lot of people will say they don't even know how many subscribers they have and stuff. But it usually tends to be like they are thinking about that. Like there's this 1 out of 10 thing on YouTube where every time you upload a video, like you're trying to get like the best video of the last 10, or you're trying to avoid having like the worst video of the last 10, because YouTube literally tells you this. And like imagine like 3 videos in a row you're getting your worst video. And I just think that tends to I think that was built obviously to help creators grow, but it also is built to like keep you on it and making sure you're keeping people on the platform. And yeah, that's really, really tiring. And I think, you know, when young people ask should they become a creator, or their parents say is it a good career, I think actually it is really good today, because even if you don't like continuously do it for yourself, there's so many roles now in businesses and so many roles in media that need people who know how to like edit, film, come up with ideas. You guys know this better than anyone. And so I hope some of those YouTubers who are like holding on for dear life because they don't want to join I wouldn't say the real world, but the kind of do something for someone else or with someone else, there's actually opportunities for them. They can get really good roles in other businesses, so they don't have to do that. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like, should you be a creator is a question I get quite a lot. And I think that, like, I don't know if you have to be an out-and-out creator, but if you manage the mental load of it, I always think my socials exist over here, as they're not present in my life, but they give me a massively unfair advantage. Yeah. And so if you're able to think about it like that, then it's very good for you. If you're someone that struggles with the
the social anxiety of the views and so forth, then I actually would say probably not, because I think it can crush people.
And also, I think, you know, the way that I've approached stuff personally is I've been very careful on growing my social because I was so focused on building brands. So like I'm more naturally an entrepreneur than a creator, and I've seen a lot of people building brands and making, to your point, themselves the front and center of the brand, which if you want to build a brand that can not just last beyond you, but can exit and all of the things, and you don't want to get stuck with the thing for the rest of your life, whatever you create, that is the one beautiful opportunity that a brand has, that you can create its own identity and its own thing, and you don't need to be attached to that. I literally, up until I started Heights in 2020, and literally until last year, didn't start on Twitter or LinkedIn, Instagram, or any of it, because I just really focused on that. And I think that has been really helpful for me. It's been great to see, you know, my friends, you know, come out of the blocks as well from nowhere and grow massive platforms and all this kind of stuff. And there's this also, you know, there's this part of it that's really interesting, right? Which is, it's hard for creators sometimes to know what to say and what the story is. And on a personal level, I always felt like until I took Heights to £10 million, I wouldn't have any credible story to tell. As an
You did
entrepreneur.
always used to say that, yeah.
Yeah.
You
As
were
in,
like,
like, literally,
yeah.
I don't want to start doing it until we get to £10 million. Like, I just
Sales
feel like,
past £10 million recently. So.
Yeah, that's the, I mean,
but I think it's important to have your own milestones for this
I do
stuff
think
as
it's I do, and that's you know, for me, I when I first kind of stepped away from YouTube and got into other things, I really struggled to like want to go and talk about those. Like, I was invited on like, you know, some podcasts and so on back then, and I didn't want to do it yet because I was like, it wasn't just about getting to X revenue, but it was also I felt like I needed to go through a few more things, and that involve. I think that's a great milestone because it's like a number to have, but yeah, I think that, you know, there tends to be you know, people giving advice who haven't necessarily gone through that just because they have a big following, and I didn't want to necessarily do that. So
it's quite nice to hear that but for both of you that was a thing. Like, so credibility is kind of what you're talking about. Like, I think that one of the biggest problems we have is that everyone seems to be an expert on business, and they're like 22 years old with, you know, 500,000 followers, and they're telling you how to grow a business. And
this.
You're like, you're not.
I just never wanted to be that person. Like, maybe they can live with that. I couldn't live with that.
I think, I've always been a big fan of Richard Branson, like always written him letters and stuff. And what I like about him is, you know, he's done some incredible things, but he doesn't ever like lecture people. And he kind of comes across like he's just like this guy who's able to put together big teams who know what they're doing. And I think ultimately that's like what I would like to try and emulate in my own way. It's not going to be an airline. But I think that those are the sorts of people I kind of look up to. People like you walk into the room with and they put you at ease instantly. They just don't really, also when things go to plan, they don't act like it was all just like, this is, you do this, this and this. Because I think when you put that out, a lot of people don't actually know what it takes to build a business because they think you just follow a recipe, and it's not the case.
It's like we were talking about earlier when I was like, what was the advice you gave, or you were like to me, what was the advice you gave? And I couldn't tell you necessarily, nor was the thing that you said specifically what I went and did. And it's so interesting about advice is that I think retrospectively you think about the journey very differently to in the moment. Like I've just launched a new company, and I'm sure that in a few years' time, I'll be like, we went from like A to B, and then tactically we pivoted, and actually just completely making it up as you go along. And it feels like you're sort of day one again. I think it's very easy to look very good retrospectively.
Exactly.
If you're doing business internationally, you should check out Wise Business, the app for doing things in other currencies. Wise Business is the only account you need to manage your company's international money with ease. You can pay and get paid in up to 40 currencies globally, without the headache of multiple accounts. Here's what makes Wise Business incredible. Fast payments, direct integration with platforms like Amazon and Stripe, and seamless connections to your accounting software. With real-time tracking and 24/7 security, your international finances stay protected and under control. Even better, there are no hidden fees, no marked up exchange rates, and no subscription costs to eat into your profits. You can get started with Wise in less time than it takes to make your morning cup of coffee, whether you're launching a new venture or scaling globally. To learn more about how Wise could work for your business, visit wise.com/business.
It's even like with investing and stuff. I was listening to a podcast my partner and co-founder of Creative Ventures was on, And one of the businesses we did was called Beehive, and it's gone on to do very well. And they're like, what did you see? And of course, we can say like the founder was brilliant. This was before they like even launched the product to market.
Wow.
And so, you know, and I love the way he answered that. He's like, look, like there were a few things, but there's also, you know, it's also a bit of luck. It's also like, you know, there's all sorts of things that add to it rather than it was X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we're taught to do that because when we're doing a job interview, that's what some of the employers are looking for. They're looking for like, oh, have you, you know, do you have a really like specific answer? Or when you do press or whatever, they're looking for something like sound bites. And I like, what I've learned recently is just like kind of the more people I meet who've done amazing things. Like I think I was also listening to the founder of Succession or the showrunner speak on stage one day, and I just loved how like he was just being so like real, and he was like, I didn't know this was gonna work like this. I didn't know that was gonna do that. And I was like, wow, it really means a lot to me when I see someone who's at the top of their game say that, because it makes you feel like you can do it. Because you feel like that. And it's the same thing when you hear like someone like that gets nervous about doing something.
Totally.
Like it makes me feel.
Bet Richard Branson doesn't get nervous though.
Yeah, I wonder.
I bet he does know what he's doing.
I bet he does get nervous. Because again, like to him, when he starts a new venture, it's a new venture.
We should ask him.
You know.
We should ask. Okay, can we put this out on the internet? Richard Branson, can you tell us if you get nervous?
Yeah, do you get anxiety?
Yeah, and come on Secret Leaders, obviously.
Yeah, and would that make you anxious?
Yeah. And we'll get Caspar in for that episode.
Yeah,
too.
we'll all make you feel very comfortable, Richard.
Yeah.
It's
I used
all
to
good.
write him. I used to write him letters when I was in South Africa, trying to get upgrades on his planes.
That's why he didn't respond.
He didn't respond.
Wait, so you obviously didn't know him? And you were
No, I
just...
didn't know him, but like I think that's one of the biggest things. Like growing up, I saw premium economy for the first time because. You know, you walk through it as you turn right.
Isn't that so weird about planes? You have to walk through
I
the
know.
business class and they all sit there like...
I love those videos.
You're now looking at them. To be fair,
No, I always look down.
That's why you have to go first class, so you don't have to.
Yeah, that's it.
I looked, you know, I would always turn right, go to the very back, but I'd see those seats, and I was like, that's so cool. It became like an obsession of mine, like, how do I get to premium economy one day? And I also have Tourette's syndrome. And so that's like when I have like involuntary tics, like I have to stretch my arm. When I was younger, it was a lot worse. And so I was like, I'm going to use this to my advantage. And actually I did technically have this one where I would push my like leg out in front. I was like, I'd write him letters saying, I would, you know, I have a flight coming up, and I don't want to disturb the person in front of me, and I know the bulkhead's for babies, so like,
sweet of you.
Can you put me into, you know, premium economy, to try and help the plane? He never ever responded, but actually at the gate, I told the same story every time, you know, shoot your shot, and actually once they put me into premium economy,
Wow,
and I
that's
got
great.
obsessed.
How was it?
It was like, I was like blown away.
the tick didn't come up actually, weirdly.
I did it with my sister, and it was very, as a young person, that was really cool. But I think it started an addiction to trying to get better seats on planes, which has probably led to everything I've done in life, trying to get literally up onto the left.
I don't know how to explain, but I would say that even when you get money, it's one of the only things that money is actually good for.
I totally agree with that.
Like, I just don't buy anything.
Hold on. There's something else.
Go on.
A new backpack. I got a new
You
backpack.
did have a new backpack when
and
you came in.
I can't believe it's the second time you're talking about your backpack in 30 minutes.
Literally came in talking about it.
It's a new backpack.
like
I'm pretty sure you don't need millions to buy a new backpack.
Yeah.
No, it's like £150 backpack, but
Whoa.
because I got Black Friday deal, it's usually more.
Yeah, fair.
And I've never been so happy. But I've literally had like, I got a car recently. I moved to a lovely house. But there's something about this backpack that made me more excited. I promise you, there was like 2 hours of excitement, like putting shit into it.
My wife was like, you have to stop talking about your new backpack. It's all
You have one too?
Yeah, I bought. I actually, this is ridiculous. I got one. Who did we just do a brand deal with recently? In the same week, I got given.
Oh, HP.
Yeah, in the same week, they gave me
An HP backpack.
An HP backpack.
Like come on, you need a. I love HP,
the compartments of it.
Okay, it sounds good.
I've just been like, this is amazing.
It was amazing.
I can fit everything perfectly in this.
Sorry,
thing.
can I just be clear? They gave you one and not me one. What the?
I think they
HP.
delivered it to
Come
my
on.
house, didn't they? I can't remember.
I'd quite like this. My wife, so just to be on the backpack chat, my wife absolutely detests my backpack. It is the ugliest, worst thing. It's like
Welcome
10
to the
quid from
business show.
Amazon. It's 10 quid from
No,
Amazon.
you need to invest.
But the reason is it's so light. So I've had all these expensive backpacks, and they're quite heavy.
So we've determined that once you make money in life, all you really want is business class flights and backpacks.
I think that's all you. I think that's all you want, to be honest. Like, I mean, look, there are other people. I've seen it. Like they want other stuff.
Yeah. I tell you what ruins business class: having kids. Yeah.
This is a very a very difficult first world problem.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
What the hell are you? How does it ruin it?
You know, I'm now flying back in.
What if you upgrade?
Flying back to South Africa in economy because you don't want to grow up.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I thought you were saying it ruins it because you bring them in there and they keep you away.
A, you don't want to piss off other business class passengers, but B, you also just don't want to have a little spoiled child.
But I could still never. I don't think I'll ever personally pay for that. Like I only do it. At our businesses, we don't do it because it's just expensive. Like,
so you still fly economy?
Well, so the way it works.
No, exactly. No, you don't.
The way I would do it. No. I do sometimes. I do, but
I do when I'm on Ryanair and I'm forced to. Yeah.
I book an economy ticket
when there's no seats.
and then
I'll write to the fucking CEO of the airline. Wait for
and
him
I
to
do
respond.
my thing.
Start kicking him.
No, but I do like personally I would never like pay for a like upfront like a £5,000 economy ticket.
Right.
Sorry, but that would be an expensive economy. But I would always try and like find a way, like using Amex, like BA. The BA card's quite good, and then also like I feel like BA's gotten quite good at like providing £300 upgrades to business from premium. If you do that, and to me that's obviously it's a lot of money for like 7 hours, but I mean it's pretty good.
Clip this up and get BA to sponsor it. Right, back onto the actual questions in the interview.
Sorry, I could talk about this all. I could talk about planes.
Do you know what I do like? I do quite enjoy people who are nerds on
it.
Amex points. Like there are some people who are just like.
I mean, let's pick it up afterwards because I actually think that my wife and I are the biggest nerds.
Really?
As in, there are so many websites out there that you can find the rewards flights perfectly on the days, and then if you optimize your life to the BA card.
But the actual website, the BA website's just
doesn't matter. You don't need it.
You
just use Seat Spy.
But then do you have to then go and book it on the BA site once you've found it, or can you literally?
Yeah, but that's super easy.
Yeah, but I hate it when it loads. I mean,
I know it's a pain.
Anyway,
sorry, you're trying to get your BA thing, and
I tried to do all the facts with Cape Town
us
this year after knowing that I had a whole year to book it, and I still ended up paying $4,000 for 3 economy flights.
Yeah, that's Cape Town. The Cape Town route. If any other airlines listening, can you come in and like make more routes?
It's awful.
Richard Branson, come on.
Yeah, he has actually done it, but it's not enough.
Okay, Caspar.
I love you, Richard.
Yeah, look, Richard, you're amazing.
Yeah, so I suppose for someone like me from the outside, I knew of you as like an entertainer, as in like I used to watch. You had that super famous clip with Tom Holland, I think, which like I don't know why, but that always stuck out in my head. And now that you have stepped away, I would definitely identify you as like entrepreneur now first, and business person and so forth. Are there other people that were doing it with you then that have now also become entrepreneurs and not creators? Yeah,
so the people I was most close with, it's like Joe Sugg, Josh Peters is a best friend of mine, and then there are a few others. But Joe and I have MVE together, so we're co-founders of that, and we launched that with WME. So they're a big kind of agency group, and that's doing really well now. I'm so proud of the team we've built and the creators we're signing. And it's like we had this conversation the other day. We were like, this is so strange. Like it's become so much bigger than us. Like in the beginning, we like were out there trying to sign all the talent, convince them to come, and now like the managers are just so good that people are joining.
And this is, you take creators on that you think that they have a great future, and then you build their brand strategically. Yeah,
so we're actually one of like the only ones who actually do that part. So you'll see when you look at our roster, we're not just trying to sign the biggest names. We do have some people like I'd say like half of them are already quite big when they join us, but then the other half, like you'll notice that they're not massive, but we see potential, and that's like I think that's like a really cool thing to do as a manager, and I think that's we kind of are guided by our team, and that's one of the things they love to do. That like have your big stars, but also like help build something. And because the lessons I think you learn from those experiences also really help the big stars as well. And so it's a real mixture. And I'm proud we do that together. And there are a few others who have done some cool stuff, but Joe and I are like really close. I mean, Josh has a production company now too, and he's starting to do documentaries. He's about, I think it's going to probably be released by the time this comes out. But he's did a film with Lily Phillips.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No, go on. Who's
No,
who's
okay.
Lily Phillips?
That's interesting.
Maybe we can edit in
Yeah.
that we knew.
No, it's good. No,
Lily,
you guys are gonna your girlfriends and wives or what?
Yeah.
They're gonna be happy that you didn't know
It's a
her.
while since we've had girlfriends, isn't it?
Are you?
Also married, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
married.
That's
Cool.
probably why we don't know. Not allowed to look at the internet anymore.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So she's an OnlyFans creator
Ah.
who
That would explain it then.
well
we
done,
came out
because-
well just then, didn't we?
There we
Yeah.
go. She did a day the other day where she slept with 100 guys.
Right.
Um,
You did that once, didn't you, Chris?
Is this a real story?
Yeah, and it will be out. It's coming out really soon. And so yeah, he does like a mixture of these like crazy documentaries and then content for brands. Yeah.
Jesus. So he's doing a documentary on a lady who slept with 100 men in one day.
Yeah. So there's this other person I
Oh,
think.
that maths is complicated.
Yeah.
There is another person
Yeah,
online.
so people get confused. I think her name's Bonnie. I'm saying
Yes.
I know her name's Bonnie Blue because I've seen clips of not the actual content.
No, of course not. Caspar.
I started seeing clips of the hate that
Yeah.
the Bonnie lady was getting because
Yeah.
she's like sleeping with loads of
I think
younger people.
people are angry that there's that, and also I think some of the language she uses in particular. I'm not sure what Lily does. I don't know. Again, I'm not watching this.
Have you
Amber.
seen this stuff?
No.
But I think the language
It's
is like
wild.
quite
Yeah.
questionable,
Yeah.
like around like the age and so on.
Mm.
Christ.
So, but I'm not going to talk about that too much.
Yeah.
I'm not trained to talk about such things on
No.
podcasts.
We must get back to
No.
your training, Caspar. All right. So back to the training and the original
Thank
program. So obviously we're interested in business in the sense that when you do build a business, you're able to scale it, build a team, walk away, like or at least manage things from a distance. All the stuff that you were just saying. Is there a way to do that as a creator? Like, literally, you obviously couldn't work it out for yourself.
Yeah.
But what is that magic ingredient that people do?
No, I think it's actually not the same for a creator. I think being a creator is more like having a restaurant in a way, and like to make it a really good quality restaurant, I think you need that chef in there every day who's like really honest, and people are also obviously. You have to be on camera unless you become an AI creator, which we can also go into if you'd like to. But let's try and avoid AI for at least another 5 minutes, because every other podcast talks about that constantly.
I don't think we've actually spoken about it once, have we?
Proud of you guys.
Not too much.
But that we
Maybe
should,
it's
we
'cause we're
shouldn't.
like off, we don't know enough,
No, I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Everyone's an AI expert.
What's
today, come
OnlyFans
on.
and AI? We've
Yeah.
got no idea.
Yeah, well done.
God, we're like two dinosaurs running a business.
But what the hell was I saying? I need some AI.
Yes, you do. So being able to take yourself out of the business.
Yeah, exactly.
Restaurant chef.
Yeah, so it's like you have to you have to turn up, you have to film, and I think you can definitely make it more scalable. You can make it easier on your. You say you don't even watch the freaking videos afterwards. You don't edit them. You don't. You
No.
just turn up like a diva and demand your.
He does, and he shouts,
I
and
could-
he beats them as
in
well.
people wouldn't believe me, but I don't even know if I've reviewed one clip or video that's gone out on my channel
Brilliant.
or the shows.
Yeah, so that that's an example of a chef who has made McDonald's for himself because he doesn't care about the quality, he's all about the quantity.
I just trust the team.
No, exactly. No, and that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That was a really good save. I love that.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
That's
It's not
really
even
good.
true.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But there is that level of some people like you can go and do that, but a lot of creators still like need to be in the weeds.
Yeah.
Especially
I think that's
like
a really interesting and very difficult skill that you learn through running a business is how to get out of the way and how to delegate. That's exceptionally hard if you are the product.
Yeah.
It's why I think like you've got creators wanting to be entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs wanting to be creators. And when creators want to be entrepreneurs, they have to learn so much about business.
Yeah.
And they don't know about like the hard learned lessons. We've done it for 15, 16 years, like delegation, like telling someone no, having hard conversations, building processes. That's what we do. And so going into the creator world, I was like, there's no way I'm going to do it all myself. I'm going to hire incredible people and outsource the vast majority of it.
That's a good point. I think because you started with that team, maybe it's easier then as it grows for you to like maintain that. Whereas a lot of creators start on their own, and then it's quite hard in that transition period. And a lot of them, their content changes as well. So maybe people came to them for like something super organic, and now they've got this team, maybe better cameras. And actually somehow it takes away from it. So
Totally, yeah.
it's a tough one. It's possible, and a lot of creators now do. I mean, there's some incredible editors out there who work across tons of creators. Actually, becoming an editor is a huge opportunity, I think, for young people. There's just not that many incredible people doing it.
Yeah, so true.
And yeah, I mean, that's going back to what we said earlier. Is like, you know, to be a creator today, you don't need to just be doing it for your own channel. There's so many people out there, maybe entrepreneurs who want to become creators who need help, and so you can work with them.
But like a lot of people would be, you know, would obviously love to build an audience and love to be a creator and love to make money online and all of those kind of things. At the same time, like I'm going to Cape Town for a month in January. Yeah. You are, like you're going away. Like how hard is that to achieve? Like the ability to just take proper time off and not have your entire income stream suffer as a result.
Yeah. No, so it's, I think, you know, there's a lot of jobs like that. So it's not just creators, but I think because it's such a transparent industry and like how well your videos are doing means a lot to you. You know, taking holidays can be kind of detrimental if you literally turn off. And so a lot of creators then like film their holidays, share that with them, with their audiences. And it's fun, I guess, because they're doing cool stuff, but there's always that thing at the back of their head that is like, oh, okay, I need to edit this, I need to upload it. And I think for like the 10 years I was a YouTuber, I always had that. And now when I, you know, take, I wish it was a month, but when I take some time off, we, you know, I properly get to take time off. And I think it's the sacrifice a creator needs to make, and I think there are a lot harder jobs out there too. So, yeah. but it is. I do think it does weigh on people for sure.
It's interesting because it's totally an industry of there's two sides. It's absolute freedom and a complete trap.
Sometimes absolute freedom is actually a
prison.
Trap. It's really interesting you say that. Like I think sometimes you know, having structure really allows you to, you know, enjoy the time when you have a weekend, totally, you know, and I think there's some places that kind of offer their employees like unlimited holiday. Yeah, and I think that's almost, they do that to get people to take less holiday.
100%.
Yeah, it never works. I mean, I think the creator thing, if not managed well, just becomes way worse than a job. It's like a lot of people will always say, I want to be an entrepreneur so I can be free. And it's like, well, you become an entrepreneur and you end up working like 9 to 5 and then 5 to 9. And that just becomes your life. And I think creators are almost worse than that. Like I've helped so many creators make businesses and half the time they're just on their phone, which is my biggest pet peeve ever, that people are always on their phones. And all they do is check their views, like a non-stop refresh.
Yeah.
And I think that's almost worse than being an entrepreneur. It's like another level.
Well, as I say, it's like being an entrepreneur with a very transparent company. Yeah. I guess, but to be honest, like a lot of entrepreneurs, like also you know this as well as anyone, like you are also being tracked, even though it might not be to the public. You're being tracked if you have a board or if you have investors, and so I think it is that these things are tough for everyone. Building something that people care about.
It's just a public feedback loop, right? Like at the end of the day, all of this stuff works because there is some accountability beyond just yourself. You have investors, you have shareholders, you have audience. Like there is also another side to that argument, which is that this stuff is important. Otherwise, you can just sort of, if it's all down to yourself, that is actually, it takes a lot of discipline to make things move in the right direction, just relying on yourself. Yeah.
That's maybe why YouTube tells you exactly. It gives you everything because they want you to know where you're at. It's like when you go to the gym, if you have all the information, it pushes you. For gym, that's good. For work, it can be good, but you can take it to the extreme.
Totally.
I think it's quite interesting what you were saying about picking smaller creators, because I'm sitting here a lot of the time thinking that you can build a small audience that is really engaged on a niche topic, and if you build a good business around it, that can be the dream. Yeah. And so you don't actually have to build a massive audience. Where people seem, when they get into the game of building numbers, they seem to think that size is the most important thing. Yeah. But it's actually the depth. If you have a small engaged audience, you can...
Exactly. I think it's easier as well to stay connected with an audience when they're smaller. You definitely have a higher percentage of them who feel like they have a more engaging relationship with you as a creator. And so... You know, a lot of brands that we work with at influencer.com, they don't want to work with someone with millions of followers. There's like a sweet spot. And actually sometimes creators, when they go beyond a certain following, they start to see like deals coming down. You think, oh, the bigger you get, the more deals you get. But sometimes it's more of a risk for brands to be spending on you because, there might be more wastage because you have audiences in different countries.
Well, there's also the other side of it, which is that your brand reputation can take a real alignment to that person. So I actually had this experience with Russell Brand.
Oh, interesting.
So we only work with customers at Heights. So he was a customer of ours. And so we'd work with him. So he'd been a customer for like 6 months. Working with him, have to say, like, ridiculously professional.
Yeah.
Like beyond like what you would imagine, maybe the most professional person that we've worked with.
Interesting.
Like totally the opposite of what you would imagine. He was awesome to work with. Really great and engaged and did everything on time. And if you were like, mate, this just wasn't good enough.
Was this pre the documentary?
This is pre the thing, right?
Yeah.
So, and
if you were doing it post the documentary, I'd be like,
but this is the thing. So
risky.
we worked with him from 2023. We worked with him from January to June. But because we had a deal with him on we were using paid advertising, and so we were the only 2 advertisers he'd ever worked with, and the other was ExpressVPN because it's all about security. Because he's like loved Heights and he's into his wellness and all that kind of stuff, and he's like does his own research. We're like perfect person, why not? And basically, because part of it was his YouTube channel, which had 7 million subscribers. It was growing really fast. You'd get about, on average, 500,000 to 1 million views per video daily.
Wow.
Right? So there's a lot of output. The problem was, at the beginning of the week, you'd speak to his agent or his manager, and they'd go, these are the 7 titles we're thinking this week, right? Which one do you want to go in? And they would just get more and more absurd, right? You were just like, Christ.
I mean, his YouTube is nuts.
Totally. And you were like, well, none of them. Like, that's like, we can't go in any of them. And that was happening more consistently. So when it came to June, we were like, look, love you, you're great, and all this stuff, but we just like, we feel like there's going to be a problem for us at some point. We're like a credible science company, and the options that we have, they're so hard to pick, like they could blow up for us. So we got out of it, and the next month all that stuff came out.
God, you really can see around corners.
Well, that was just lucky, right? But that's
I know, but his concept became
well,
weird.
it just really challenging, and actually, but the point being, and we had a lot of pushback from customers as well. Like, I'm not, as a person, as an entrepreneur, I'm not a judgmental person. I very much believe in like, this is that person's actual experience, and they're a customer of Heights. Let them talk about that thing, and like, let them talk about their experience, and don't attack the person. Like, I'm super anti that, and I'm pro free speech, and so anyone telling me who to cancel, I'm like allergic to it. So the more people were telling me to do that, the more I was getting annoyed by it. All that being said, you also have a responsibility as a brand. You know, on this other side of this debate, which is like, what creators do you work with and their size? You can totally pick a brand ambassador, and they could be of a certain size that's much larger than you are. And that alignment you could potentially never undo. And so if we were, and when that came out, we had 2 press outlets reach out to us to try and basically bash us as the brand that picked like Russell Brand to represent us and stuff, and they tried to write exposés on us. I had to get my PR firm on them and send the contracts that proved that we weren't currently working with them, and if we were, they were going to like print it in national papers, trying to discredit us as a brand when all we were doing was working with this person. So it was a very, very careful and important lesson that I learned, which is you've got to pick this stuff very carefully, and actually the larger the influencer, the more they have the ability to take down your entire company, whether they meant to or not.
Yeah.
No, I think it's working with humans, and
exactly.
I think that's a risk. Brands ask a lot of questions about now because of influencer marketing. They go, well, what's this person said over the last 20 years, blah, blah, blah. And of course we need, as an agency, influencer.com, we need to look back into the creator's past, like what brands have they worked with, what have they said. That's a big part of our diligence. But at the same time, it's interesting because brands have been working with humans like this for like 100 years. Like celebrity endorsements have been around for a while. And I think you're right, like the bigger, if there's like a scale of it, and the bigger the celebrity, if something does go wrong with that person, the more it can affect your brand. But at the same time, if it's a small creator and they do something really bad, that can also really affect your brand, because the headline, as you say, if the press want to get involved,
oh yeah, totally,
they can. So yeah, it's a risk people take. Ultimately, I don't think, I think people now, even though the press might try and make your brand look terrible, all of this, I think people, when they read it, understand like you're not the reason they did what they did as a brand.
Yeah.
Like, there was an endorsement. You don't know everything about their personal life, but it's important you do that diligence.
What's your take on cancel culture as someone that runs influencer?
You know what's funny about being an entrepreneur? Everyone thinks that we're these super productive machines, crushing it 24/7. But let me tell you a secret. Half the time, I'm just trying to figure out where I saved that one important file from 3 weeks ago.
Really? But you're so organized.
Yeah, well, I'm about to be, because I've been testing the HP OmniBook Ultra Flip, and oh my God, this thing is like having a personal assistant that actually knows what they're doing.
All right.
You know those days when you've got back-to-back calls? Well, you're about to make some great first impressions, because the Poly Camera Pro is insane. It tracks your face, fixes the lighting, and makes you look like you've had a professional film crew, even when you're working from your kitchen.
Yeah, it's tough to focus when you're out of focus.
I might legitimately look better in the Poly Camera Pro than I do in person. I shouldn't even bother having in-person meetings anymore. Anyway, here's where it gets really interesting. You know we're always talking about working smarter and not harder.
Yeah, that's very much your thing. I haven't quite mastered it like you just yet.
I've told you, delegate. Let the HP AI companion focus on the research so you can focus on what really matters. It can analyze documents, summarize reports, and even help you draft content. It can even summarize 10,000 words in seconds.
Wow, that's actually really amazing.
I know. Here's what I love most about the AI companion. It just helps you get to the point.
Yeah, I'm a vision person, so let's keep things at the top so we can make a decision and move forward.
Exactly. The AI companion can analyze an entire research paper in seconds, pull out the main insights, and even suggest action items. Work smarter with the right tools. Work doesn't have to feel like work. Look, I've built and sold companies worth millions, and I can tell you, the HP OmniBook Ultra Flip isn't just another laptop. It's like having an entire support team built into your computer. And here's the thing, whether you're just starting out or scaling up, this is the kind of tech that actually makes the difference. It's not just fancy features. It's about giving you back time to focus on what matters, building your business. This isn't just an upgrade, it's an absolute game changer. And trust me, once you try it, you'll wonder how you ever managed without it.
For 10% off, use our code HPLoveWork. That's HPLOVEWORK. Valid until 31st of January. T's and C's apply. UK only.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think,
Has anyone you know closely been cancelled?
yeah, I mean, we, you know, as YouTubers, a lot of us weren't big in the mainstream press. But a guy went on I'm a Celebrity, one of the YouTubers who I'm friendly with, and he got pulled off the show because he had sent messages like when he was younger. And I think the headline wasn't talking about when he sent those messages. It kind of just made it seem
As if he'd sent them recently.
yeah. I think I can't remember the exact specifics, but it was along those lines. And I think ITV took him off the show quite quickly. You know, he had national press talking about him. And yeah, it kind of destroyed his kind of ability to, you know, go outside for a long time. And he's kind of rebuilt. I think over time people figured out like the nuances. And yeah, it was just like, for me, I never wanted to go on these kind of big shows like that, because I knew like their goal as soon as you're on there, especially as a creator from the new world,
headlines,
like you're the one person a journalist wants to go after.
Totally.
And yeah,
easy as well.
yeah. But I think in terms of cancel culture, I think it gets, you know, I think it can sometimes be used by bad people to excuse their bad behavior. And so I almost worry that when we became peak cancel culture, it allowed actually bad people to blame everything on cancel culture.
True.
And so we're going through this other wave now where it's like people are fighting against that and almost saying every time something bad comes up about them, that's the reason. And so like with all this misinformation in this world, like we're going through, like people have moved away from that, but we got to be careful not to like, I'm not saying I want cancel culture back, but we also got to be careful to have like nuanced conversations about when people are doing things wrong.
You're totally right. I mean, Trump is the absolute epitome, right, of like he's uncancelable.
Absolutely. I mean, he's, I think also America, no matter what, in general, people like a comeback story.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, people aren't thinking about the nuances at all when they're making decisions. Especially of that scale and who they're going to vote for. I think
also like Trump is this amazing thing with him, whether it's like a bed of nails, everything about him has been negative. Everything has been explored. He's been attacked on everything. And so it's very hard to pin him down on one thing.
Yep.
And I feel like, for example, when he ran against Clinton, she was like made out to be a criminal. and it was the one message they just hit her with every single day. But with Trump, there's like a million things, and so he never gets pinned down on one of them. He's always a negative thing, so people never take it that seriously.
Yeah, and I think there was this clip that went around. You've probably all seen it because I think TikTok and these algorithms feed us all the same thing because we're probably quite similar in what we consume. But like it was on like tariffs,
Backpacks,
OnlyFans and backpacks.
You need to watch the rest of the podcast to understand what he just said. But there was a video about a guy who has a business. I don't know where he was, but in America, and he was like talking about tariffs.
Yeah,
and he was being told he thought like whoever we put the tariffs on will pay for it. He didn't realize like they were going to pay for it, and so like it's so hard for everyone to make in democracy like decisions in a nuanced way. It's obviously the best thing we have, but at the same time, like you're right, certain messages can drive home. Actually, I think what people realized from this election as well is like people weren't paying that much attention to like the news and they thought all of these things were gonna like that stuff that came out about Puerto Rico and all of that. They're like that's it, like people had already either made up their mind, didn't care.
People have baked it in.
So
they baked it in, and I think also in that particular example, people had sort of decided like what lesser of two evils they personally wanted to take in this. So the details of Puerto Rico's or slagging off, like whatever the thing is, it's all circumstantial evidence that already commits a view that they knew about him.
There's so much stuff, and I don't know like how America works, like because it's just such a different country. I spent some time there. I think, and another thing, like in the Western world, this kind of year, apparently, like most incumbents lost because inflation is huge across the world, and you could also blame America for that too, because America has a big say in the economies of the world. But at the same time, everyone had inflation, and everyone who was in power got ousted. And so there's so many. We don't know exactly why and what happened.
Nuanced point that most people just won't understand. Yeah.
But when you think about this stuff, yes, you are Joe Blogs going to Greg's, and you do want to know why your pasty cost £2 that cost £1 last year. That's a very understandable, realistic challenge that we will face.
Moving on from pasties, because Jay's going to kill us. So
you don't eat pasties with biceps like Jay.
No, you don't know. So you were a huge online personality. You're now an investor, an entrepreneur. I suppose when you're investing in companies, what are you looking for? Are you looking for companies that are creator-led, or are you looking for companies that you can bring, value to through creators? Because you obviously invested in one of my companies, and you invested, but you also got, this is such a bizarre story, you also got Anton de Beek to invest in our company as well. So we...
from Strictly.
Yeah, from Strictly. So... we were looking for, I said to you guys at the time, I was like, I would love for you guys to invest, but can you bring a creator? And we were like, who on earth would they bring? Because, we need young YouTubers. We had a marketplace that helped elderly people find care. And so you guys were like, Anton de Beek. And we were like, oh my God, because older women are just so obsessed with him. And we then did a joint interview with him on Good Morning. And it crashed our website. It was so successful. He was the perfect influencer for us. So tell us a bit more about how it works.
Yeah, of course. And I think also with that deal, like that's not something where we got involved between you and Anton. We just introduce, he does his own thing. We don't take a fee for that. And that's actually, going back to the start of how we started maybe helps explain what we do now is, I was getting a few opportunities to invest in businesses because they thought I could be beneficial as a creator. And I didn't know about investing. I didn't know about venture. But I have a cousin called Sasha who's very, very smart. Like this guy works at all the startups, top of his class at Oxford, top of his class at Harvard, then worked at Bridgepoint where he was brilliant, which is like a massive private equity fund. And so he was there at the time, and I started showing him some of the deals I was getting exposed to. And he's like, oh, actually, some of these are interesting. Why don't I invest as well, and we'll invest together. And so we kind of did that. Then the next deal, we brought in a few more creators, and we built this syndicate where the idea was we would make money from our own investments, but we'd be more attractive to founders because we would bring in these other people. And so we kept doing that. We invested in a company called Face It, which it merged and sold to a bigger company for 1.5 billion. And that was within 2 years. So for venture,
Incredible.
it's pretty quick.
I mean, literally unheard of.
It was, yeah. So it was and there were a few others we did, like we did Wild, which is ripping, and so we kind of got these quick, not only markups but also cash distributions, which are important, and then a fund of funds kind of encouraged us to go out and raise our first fund. And yeah, we don't invest necessarily in creator founded businesses. What we do is try and use our expertise and our network and knowledge of social media to help the businesses we're investing in navigate that, be it bring a creator into a deal and do something like that, or help them with their paid strategy or whatever they need help with. A lot of them are already good at it because we like that in a founder, because especially for consumer businesses, it's super important. And then we just invest. And we've invested in companies like Beehive, Practica. We did 11 Labs. And yeah, it's the first fund's gone really, really well, which is not hard which is quite hard in this climate. It wasn't necessarily hard a few years ago when everyone was just marking shit up, but at the moment that's not happening exactly the same way. And we're really proud of our achievements so far. But it's all about the future and cash distributions. That's what really matters.
Unlike you, I actually pitched Sasha. He turned me down. Very, very well.
I don't know if we ever pitched. We just had like a really great.
Really?
Just don't make him feel bad.
Yeah, that made me feel really bad about it.
I remember.
I spoke to Sasha a few times. But he's really, really good, and he was really they were really good conversations.
Yeah.
He put a lot of time into them. Our valuation was too high. It's consumer, all of the things. But he was really. I really rated him.
Yeah.
He was very, very good. I've spoken to a lot of VCs, and also. I'm also very honest, as Chris knows. I basically would tell you straight if I thought he was a prick. So
great!
He was awesome.
On live on camera.
Yeah, but he's really, really, really good.
He might actually do that. Yeah.
But we also we turned down, some deals that we really regret, like anyone.
Heights, Nvidia,
exactly. But then we've been lucky enough. Two of the deals that I can think of out of the top of my head is we didn't do 11 Labs the first time. Luckily hopefully Sasha built a relationship where then we were able to come in, and then even Runner, I don't know if you know Runner, is absolutely ripping as well.
I know Delman and Josh, they're doing so well. Yeah,
we spoke to them very early on. Again, we couldn't do it at that point, but we were able to still come in, and so I think hopefully that shows that people like what we're providing, but also the way in which I think it's more simple than that. Just Sasha, when he talks to someone, or when I talk to someone, you just make sure that even if you are declining, they understand why. You're very transparent. You're very quick. They know that they're speaking to the decision maker, and that it's not necessarily that because what they're doing is wrong. It's just not right yet. Maybe.
So if you're investing in a business, nowadays, do you think that the creator marketing is outperforming traditional marketing, or do you think that the traditional marketing still has a place?
For the businesses we're investing in, a lot of them aren't doing traditional marketing, just because I think, when they're doing 10 million, 20 million ARR, some of them might dip their toes in it by that point, but most of them are just purely social, purely digital.
What about Wild?
Wild does do they've done a TV campaign, and they do, but I think they still way more of their money spent on influencer and social.
Yeah, it's the same with us. 90% of ours is paid social and stuff, basically. Yeah.
So I think, I think when you get really big distribution, I think in America as well, it's still important to do some traditional stuff. I think it helps with the brand uplift. I think some of them still do out of home campaigns, but a lot of that is talked about on social. And if they did a TV ad, it would be talked about on social. Yeah. But Wild, last time I spoke to them, this might be no longer the same, but I think they have a 30-person influencer marketing department.
Wow.
They rip. Wow. And some of the data they have is unbelievable. And I've always said, hey, Charlie, please give it to me. And he won't.
Want to know what kills big deals faster than anything? Security compliance. Honestly, it's a headache. And I don't know anyone who likes doing it. But there is a solution. One that makes security compliance easy. Vanta. Think of Vanta as your compliance wizard. They automate everything for SOC 2 and ISO 27001, turning complex security requirements into a simple, streamlined process. Over 8,000 companies, from startups to giants, trust Vanta to handle their compliance. Use Vanta so you don't get slowed down by security paperwork and focus on what matters, growing your business. Visit vanta.com/secret leaders now and get $1,000 off your first year.
What are the things that people are doing with creators now that is like the next level? You know, like what's the best version of creator marketing now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one. I think people have realized again, like, don't just work with the biggest possible creator who gets the most views. Like, you actually have to think about what the customers are, and also if you're able to acquire the customer, like, are the customers you're acquiring from this creator actually good customers to acquire? Are they staying on? What's their lifetime value and so on? So people are getting more nuanced. So like, what's the new thing with it all? I think the data is becoming a lot, smarter. I think the people internally at brands are becoming smarter, which is pushing the agencies to be better. And like the cowboys in the industry are no longer kind of doing it as much. I think there is a lot of work around brands doing like an organic post, which is, creator, can you make this for me? And then redistributing or remixing that content into paid media. And so they can use them both as like using their reach, but they can also use them as a creative buy. Yeah. And that's a lot more cost efficient than like building their own ads and so on.
I think that I would say, like, for people who don't understand that, I think it's super smart if you're a creator and you can get yourself into that position.
Yes.
Because you make, you'll do an ad with a brand and then that brand will use you as their ad in perpetuity if the ad works, and
you can get paid for that as well.
Yeah, exactly. You take a
I do one shoot
of that.
at a time.
I mean, I have some ads running with brands that I shot with them, I mean, over a year ago, that they pay me on every month.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
And for brands, it's also like, it's a great deal. Like, they used to have to go and hire a massive production company and a creative agency to create these ads, and now they can get away with hiring a creator, and usually sometimes the ROI is way better. And I'm not saying it always is. I'm not saying that other stuff doesn't have a place.
On the other side of this, so you guys can come from the perspective of being the creators. So on the perspective of being the brand, this is exactly how we run
You're
our...
a creator too.
Yeah, come on.
But
you're sitting in front of a microphone.
This is true.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Hundreds of thousands of followers.
Cuties. Thanks. But from the perspective of a brand, what we've learned over time is typically a creator and their agents, for sure, especially the bigger ones, really value, like you say, their audience, which is reasonable, the engagement that they'll get. And basically the whole thing they'll charge you for is, hey, yes, you can have a shoot with, Caspar, but, you've got to pay 25 grand for 2 hours and, whatever else, and you'll get one reel out of that and one set of stories. And when I was starting at Heights, we would do these things and we just couldn't make them work. We're like, why is creator working for everyone else? Like, that doesn't work for us. We spend that money. It's a flash in the pan moment. We got a little uptick today. Well, what about tomorrow? It took us a bit of an embarrassing amount of time to realize kind of what you guys are saying, which is now when we work with a creator, other than obviously they're already a customer, so that helps because they have the buy-in and they want to do it. We set up a shoot day. We work with them on the concept, like what is their story with our brand so far. And we get them for a day to shoot, whether or not they post the content on their own Instagram.
That's important.
I literally say to them, do it if you want to. So far, every single person has done it. But I'm like, because the agents value it so much, I'm like, just take out the contract. Don't worry about it. If they don't want to do it and you don't want to do it, but we'll create such good content with them. They want to do it.
Your CAC is lower.
Well, wow, that was entertaining.
This is our first day in the studio.
First day in the office, someone almost died.
Nothing is but what was smart is it's only above you.
Yeah.
If they haven't
next time, can we put it above the guest, please?
I quite enjoyed that. It's fine. I guess we can.
Should we just carry on?
It's a startup.
Let's just carry on.
Hey.
Yeah. We'll style it out. We'll style it out.
If you're listening, something just fell from the roof
and almost killed Caspar.
I'm in the safe seat.
Yeah. You don't get that in the diary of the CEO, do you?
No, you don't. No, they look after their guests.
Yeah.
Okay, so I actually don't care. Like obviously I do, but I know how much value they're trying to charge for that thing, which is fair on their side. I just know if we create really great content with them, creators want good content for their own feeds because they just do. So if it's good enough, they'll post it anyway. And B, as the brand, all that matters is that we can use that content in paid advertising, that we have control over it, and I care more about the license period and the amount of usage and spend I can have behind
course.
it. Those are the two
But
things that I
I'd say
negotiate on.
It's gone to the point now where when an agency will approach or a brand approaches, they don't ask for the organic.
Yeah.
They are specifically making ads for themselves, but
Yeah.
using you as the
I think this is definitely the case for, you know, your kind of like
Consumer brand.
kind of very internet selling, like D2C, like that kind of. But then there is sometimes like, you know, you're more like trying to do a big brand uplift thing. Maybe you're a tourism board and you want to have like that prestige of being on their feed. But I think that is usually kind of maybe for the bigger creators that's still quite important. But yeah, there's a whole. I mean, it's really depends. There's no like this is the one way to do it type thing. It depends what you're looking for. But yeah, I think it's great that this whole industry has evolved to a place where people, you know, are actually seeing positive ROI.
Yeah.
Because that's important. And I also like what you said around there, like, you know, it's not valuable to you, but you still understand that the creator should be charging for it because it's valuable for them. But
that's their audience. Yeah.
But sometimes there's deals people don't understand. Like sometimes deals just can't work because something is valuable for one person but not valuable for the other. But that doesn't mean they're trying to overcharge. It just means like the deal's not right.
100%. And I think one of the most important things to respect when you do these things is that person's time.
Yeah.
Like literally that person could be doing anything that day. So if they're choosing to spend that day with you as the brand, they can't do other things as well. So, and like we know, like when you're busy, when you're busy and you're famous as well, then the thing that you value the most is your time. Like the money kind of is neither here nor there. A lot of times you just want to spend your time consciously. Yeah. So
except
that's
me,
really
I'm up for anything.
Good to know.
I'm here for 5 hours today. I feel very productive.
Yeah, he's cash.
One of the things I've seen in the creator space recently is, so we've obviously had the transition from normal content to like a lot of gated content now. So like all the Substack stuff or people building their own communities. I'm now seeing
OnlyFans.
Yeah, like OnlyFans.
I'd love to see you on OnlyFans, Chris.
Gated content is a good example. But like so I have a paid for community of entrepreneurs. Yeah. And now I have brands trying to sponsor the community, which I think is fascinating because it's probably the best place in the world to sponsor.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And you just got to be careful. I guess you got to weigh it up. And like, I think it's like what you saw with, you know, Amazon. You pay for a subscription for ad free, and then now they're starting to sneak in a few ads. And you got to get the other subscription. So I think, but you are right. Like those communities are, you know, really, really valuable.
As long as it's like hyper. So I normally teach entrepreneurs how to grow or scale or build, you know, personal brand, etc. And if you're a Beehive or a ConvertKit or whatever, like it's the most valuable space in the world. Yeah, you probably couldn't 100%
because they're so near the funnel of conversion.
Exactly, you couldn't get that outside. And so I'm now thinking about my own brand. I'm doing less and less and less sponsorships, but I might as well tactically partner with, you know, Circle, for example, because if Circle sponsor my community, how many of those, you know, 7-8 figure entrepreneurs are going to use Circle? It's like I find it such an interesting.
I think if you can also provide them with like offers for your community, that would be really helpful because then your community will not just see it as like an ad. It's like this is actually beneficial. Or if you know that, you know, as long as you're just not bombarding a community that's already paying with ads, I think it's great.
Yeah, exactly. As long as the alignment's perfect for the brand, they might give the audience a 20% reduction on signing up because they don't have a cost of the acquisition in the same way that they would publicly. And so it's like it's kind of a win-win. I find it a fascinating space is that gated paid for communities can be the best place to sponsor.
There's going to be an influence marketing agency pop up after you said that just for that.
Do you guys think that creative businesses are overvalued then?
There was a lot of hype around creator economy startups, especially during like the crypto boom. Like you started to see like creators and crypto coming together to create random things. I was like, what the hell is this?
That was a funny time.
You put two words together that are hypey. I do think when we're called creative ventures, but the reason is because we kind of use the power of that to invest in all sorts of businesses. But you know, the area we still really like is like creative tools that creators use, because we think a lot of them can go, obviously they're very important to creators, but they can go beyond creators. Like Canva, I think is a great example. In terms of like, valuations and so on, I think right now valuations are getting higher again at the early stages. I think that is more kind of AI related than like the creator economy. Because right now, if you're not in the hot topic, I don't think creator economy is necessarily like the hottest thing right now.
I think if you're not AI right now, you're probably considered a bit boring.
Yeah, and to be honest, everyone will, no matter what they're doing now, they'll add AI to it, just because either
need to respell heights, don't you? Hates.
Exactly.
You're so weird.
And I don't think that's one because they're trying to attract VC, but also I think a lot of businesses now can be rebuilt using AI from scratch. So it is an opportunity. So you are seeing...
Totally. I mean, if you have a business now, you should at least be thinking, how do I do this thing, but with AI?
Yeah, how do I optimize? How do I, at Influencer, I'm working on a project right now to like try and see what processes internally can we improve on. And one of the things I've noticed is like so many of the team are already doing these things. We just need to figure out how to distribute that information amongst the company.
Totally.
And I think as like smaller companies, we're in a unique position to implement these changes fast without worrying about huge policies. And like if you're like a massive conglomerate, like good luck trying to say I'm going to let everyone use like ChatGPT. Like you have to come up with more rigorous ways of dealing with that. So
the reason I think AI and creative is so interesting outside the hype is like at a fundamental level, you're talking about kind of unfair distribution at the top end through audience, and then you're talking about, unbelievably efficient processes and small teams with AI.
Yeah.
So for individuals that are savvy enough, you can build an audience and an AI supported company, have limited staff and have quite a big company, which never used to exist previously.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Like the creative thing has become something where you need less people to make amazing content, and now the other side is becoming less people too. And so like individuals can go out and build their own companies without needing to be experts in building companies. They just need to be experts in what they're talking about or what they're building. And like, I think when like initially we had that first wave of people building companies back in the day, you had to be like a business expert, and what you were building a business on didn't matter as much. Now it's kind of the opposite.
And you'd need like a marketing team, operations team, all those sorts of things. But it does make me think, like, what's the role of traditional marketing moving forwards? Because like I said, I've just started a new company. It's my most successful company ever, and I have almost no staff, and most of it's run operationally and supported by AI, and it's just benefits from distribution. And so I think, would I ever do traditional marketing?
I think with your company, it sounds like 100%. I still do think there's so many companies out there who are going to still need lots of people, and I think it's going to make everyone like 3x. But if everyone gets 3x, then you need to be 3x just to keep up. So everyone becomes almost like how we all got better when we like started using the internet and computers. We got more efficient. Everyone now does that, so now we're just normal.
Yeah, there's that Steve Jobs saying, and the computer is the bicycle of your mind, and so AI is like the rocket ship. So you've got to like really figure out how to deal with that. But I think before personal brand and creative became a really big thing, like at the end of the day, your reputation was your personal brand, and how people interact with you and how they like you and respect you and think of you, that stuff really, really mattered. And I think that really made me bullish on creator, and actually on a personal level made me decide to start posting and start doing stuff on LinkedIn and Twitter and then Instagram. Literally I read so much about AI last year that I realized one of the few remaining things left that we'll have as human beings is our own personality, our own view of the world, our own, because everything is just becoming so generic. So, and it's already happening a lot. So to have your own unique personality and your own stance and stuff, and to build your own audience of people who like to listen to you because you are a human and you are you, that suddenly clicked for me. That like, that is actually one of the only edges you have in an AI world, isn't it? Is that you're still human when everything else is commodified by tech.
Yeah, I think it's very, exactly. There's some stuff that's going to become way more important for people, and some stuff that's going to become less important. And I think like with the creator world, I think it's quite nuanced. I think that you have people who were creators who were just redistributing information, but no one actually cared about the person doing it. They just cared about the information. I think that's quite easy for AI to come and replicate. For example, like the Daily Mail. If there's a news story happening, and it's on TikTok, no one cares about the person who's telling the story. They just want to hear the story. And so that's the thing. But if it's like someone giving their opinion on something like Joe Rogan or anything, like people want to come for that person. And it's just like, you would never watch two like AI football teams playing against each other, even though they could be very good and probably, if they were robots, even better than real footballers. It's not interesting because there's something innately human about our lives that we care about.
I think I'd like to watch it once. The AI
Exactly.
play like a crazy game, but then without the personality, without the imperfection, it would all become quite boring.
Yeah, and I still think like it's going to continuously improve. Like I think Claude, for example, is getting like really good with like not being an AI cringe type thing.
Wild.
But yeah, there's also this, I don't know if there's this almost plateau happening with some of AI at the moment where we thought it was just going to continuously snowball at the same rates. And it's like there are actually some restrictions with this current way we're doing things, where like, people a lot smarter than me are going to come up with ways to fix that, but I think it's not going to continually move as fast as it has done for the last few years.
There's a great clip, Sam Altman, where he goes, at the beginning everyone thought like AI was going to be like Terminator, change the world, and now everyone's like, oh, it's a bit slow when I type a query. And it's true, like I when AI happened, I remember being terrified because I was like, wow, I'm going to be behind like immediately. And I set myself the goal of like using it half an hour or an hour every day from the moment that ChatGPT came out. And I think it's one of the best decisions I ever made. But now I'm like, God, it is slow. Like, why can't it do more?
Yeah.
And it is amazing how if you're not doing that, you are behind. If you're not using it all the time, your ability to execute on companies is just way less.
What do you think are the biggest opportunities then that are coming out of the creator industry? Are they all related to AI, or are there other things that we're not looking at?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of investments, I'm always quite skeptical when people are like, oh, I want to build a financial company for creators to use, or I want to do something where it's not actually helping the creators make better content, or it's not easy for the creators to see how much money they can make from it, because creators are really difficult customers. They like, I think I might get this analogy wrong, but they're like as hard sometimes as selling to an enterprise. They churn as fast as a consumer, and they have like the pockets of a SMB. Like, so like they're not the number one audience for you building your business. But in terms of like creators building their own businesses, you're going to continuously see it. A lot of them do it, and some of them are successful, some of them aren't. I think they have very early on a chance to go from zero to quite a big number very quickly, but then they sometimes struggle to get the product market fit because it's like it's inflated because of that.
And the churn is so real. Like, I think that's such a good takeaway for everyone listening. Is like the boring of businesses. So for example, our business Lottie, it took more time to get going because we were selling to enterprise care companies, but then there's zero churn, and so it's just such a compounding thing to watch. Whereas I know so many people who started creative businesses, like absolutely flew, but then all the customers are gone within like 2 years.
And so when I talk to creators trying to build business, I'm like, leverage the fact that you have an audience. Maybe it can help with trying to get customers, but actually it's not going to help you long term. You want to actually build something that people would use even if you didn't have an audience, and that's just like a benefit.
Exactly.
And then also leverage the fact that you're a creator to get into meetings with the right partners, or getting opportunities to speak on podcasts or going on stage. So for me, that's really been important, because I've never had I do have a student accommodation business in South Africa, but most of the businesses I'm involved in, they're very B2B. And so I've never sold my products to my audiences, but I've leveraged the fact that I'm a creator to do those opportunities, and then eventually sell to enterprises, which, as you say, long sales cycle, but it's also a great business to be in. Yeah,
I mean, when you look at a business like that after a long enough period, you're like, wow, that thing's a freight train.
Yeah.
Rather than a lot of the businesses that I get pitched on my channel, I always look at and I'm like, it's cool now, but in 5 years, am I going to think that was a good investment? It's probably not. So yeah.
What do you think makes a good leader, or a great leader, I should say?
I think, people who firstly don't. They obviously, as people get more and more experience, they start to use that experience to make decisions, and that can be great. But I think sometimes bad leaders will then build up these conception or misconceptions, but these ideas on things, and then they just will turn down big opportunities or tell someone something based on something that happened 5 years ago, and it's not necessarily relevant. So I've used the word nuance so much today that I'm almost embarrassed, but I think that people who are willing to go against their own misconceptions or their own ideas of what happened in the past, I think makes it a good leader. And
I wish more people talked about the word nuance.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's so much always lost in translation in the world, and it has to be so polarized one way or the other. But
and everyone has to be right.
Yeah. And I think like some leaders I've met, like they are so sure of themselves on every single topic in the world, and I'm like, you're just good at one thing.
That terrifies me.
Yeah, well, that's a tell, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're good at one thing.
What's that saying you have? I loved it.
Oh, yeah. It's the kind of people we like to hire at Heights, which is strong opinions loosely held.
Yeah.
I love that. So that's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think so many, especially in venture, like so many people miss out on opportunities because especially the bigger venture companies, they have to build teams, and then you finally get approval from the person who's been doing this for 30 years. And like maybe you haven't been able to, as the associate or the person, the leader of the deal, you haven't maybe be able to tell that person all the nuances, and then they have their misconceptions and they miss out on a great deal because they're not dealing with it themselves, and they're not open to new things or new ideas, or going like, actually, everything I know about this deal is bringing up different things that I thought were not right, but there's still something special here, and I can still do that.
So what makes a bad boss?
A bad boss, I think someone who's a huge micromanager is. I do like, I do also, I like the founder mode thing. Like I do think there's an important time to become like really on top of it, and mustn't be like, I'm delegating everything and like, just like, I trust you. And like, that's great. But you really, again, you need that balance. And I think
he's giving you some live feedback. He's like, "What you said sounds a bit much, mate. Bring it back in."
And
it's true though, isn't it? Like people oscillate as well. Like you're probably, you probably would have experienced so much on one side, and quite often we go on the
seasons
other
of life,
side.
man.
Yes,
I'm just in a quieter season.
Yeah.
I'm less.
This is spring summer energy, Chris.
No, but when you're on the front line of a company, and I've built a couple now, and I've had good times and bad times, exits, etc. Like sometimes you have to be like, oh, but at least now I can recognize it. You go, fuck, this is I'm going to be in the trenches now for a year, and I'm going to have to fight my way back out of this. But then you get to other seasons like now where I'm like, okay, I don't have to do that all the time.
Yeah.
So why would I try and do that again?
That's fair.
I'm just trying to have a bit more of a peaceful life, I suppose.
Yeah. No, 100%. And yeah, no, I think there's so many ways of doing it. It depends on your culture as a company as well. Like, you can't just walk in and expect like to talk to a marketing company in the same way you'd talk to like a really technical, deep learning AI business, and like have the same strategy of how to be a boss. And so I think the ability to kind of have some sort of EQ and know, like, how do you incentivize people beyond just saying things? Like, what do they actually care about? And then also I think like today, like, being genuine, because a lot of, we learn like, how do we do company values? How do we do like all of these, like, how do we build our culture? And like every now and then, like some leaders will just stand on stage like once a quarter and say all the right things, but everyone's just like, oh my God, this is so lame. Like you actually have to be, in today's world where people, especially in the UK, I find like, they hate like that sort of airy fairy shit. They want you to be funny. They want you to be self-deprecating, but you still need that stuff, but you got to deliver it in a way that feels like real.
What is your secret to business success then? What is the thing that's worked for you?
I mean, just somehow convincing really good people to work with me. And so, yeah, the fact that I'm able to do multiple things is because of those people. And hopefully I bring something valuable to that. But yeah, I can't be like, it's me, it's definitely those people, but hopefully I've been able to provide them with something helpful too.
And are you balanced? Like, how are you looking after your health?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty good at the moment. I go to the gym a lot. I run because of Runner a lot.
You're going to play paddle with Dan.
I would love to play paddle with Dan.
Honestly, I might come to South Africa just to play paddle with you guys.
You should, mate. You've got your racket right there.
I think exercise. I think sleep.
Yeah.
These things are hugely important. And then I have an incredible relationship with my fiance. And so yeah, I just just really happy, to be honest, at the moment. But
Amazing.
it changes. Like I had like 3 years ago, just after lockdown, I had like really bad social anxiety, like shocking. Like I wouldn't even be able to drive a car with like my best friend sitting next to me.
Wow.
Because I'd feel trapped and like, what am I going to say and all of this. And like, it took me a long time to get through that. And I don't know exactly what happened. I think a lot of people experienced strange things coming out of that time. But
your brain literally changes. So in the experience of something like lockdown, which is so unusual, your brain, you can change from being an extrovert to an introvert through that experience. And so many people who were extroverted before became very introverted for a long time and did not, like you're saying, didn't know how to handle that. And because I was the same, by the way, and how it would manifest is in social anxiety, like really uncomfortable to be around other people because you're not used to feeling anything but comfortable around other people.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like my thing. Like that's what I built my whole career on, was like working with other people, and I became terrified for some reason. And what I learned during that whole thing was like obviously speaking to someone who could help me, and their advice was slowly but surely push yourself. To like, on that first, you don't want to go on a long drive. Okay, do a 1 minute drive, then do a 5 minute drive, do a 10, and then over time you build it up, but don't like run away from it and like just embrace the kind of the fear. And now when I have like really big pitches, it might not be anxiety that I'm feeling, it might be nervousness, but like I get kind of excited for that. And I'm almost getting it like I had a pitch last night, and I was again, it was like a next level pitch every time. Like you get used to it, but then there's something else, or maybe you haven't done it for a while, and then you feel it again. But like, you just feel so good afterwards. And
I do actually miss that. That's like the one phenomenal thing about proper B2B businesses, is that as your company scales, you go from smaller brands to medium sized to massive. And I remember the feeling you get after a pitch when you feel like it went well, or you feel like you've got it. There's very few things in life like it.
Yeah.
That sort of, I remember we flew back, we won Bugatti, and we basically got told on the day that we won them. And then on the plane back, it was just like full elation. And we don't really have that in what I do these days.
And I think that's a great example you got to hear on the day. Usually you don't. And for me, it's weird. Like I get more excited, even if I just get through the pitch and I feel like it's done well, then the result, I know it's going to be like, I know what percentage might happen. And so then that's fine. That will be in the back. But just getting through it and being nervous and doing it makes me just so excited. Because like, I went through a time when it wasn't the case. And I hope I don't get fully jaded so that I don't get nervous, because I like that feeling.
Yeah, it's true.
It's interesting listening to you both. I realised you actually don't really have that in consumer. That doesn't really, that big moment thing. Even if you were to get an award or a milestone, that's not really how it works.
Because winning a big deal, I mean,
it can change your business
like
that.
Changes everything.
Yeah.
Like,
whereas consumer, it's more
when we put out that we won Bugatti on socials, the company changed overnight, because all the other luxury brands were like, well, if you work with Bugatti, you can work with anyone. And so we then went on an absolute tear 2 years before the exit, which was like Aston Martin, we won loads of other car brands, we won yacht brands, plane brands, hotel brands, but we were verified by the fact that we'd won Bugatti. And so I knew that on the way home. It was like, I was like, we've made it. And then from that point onwards, you're like, I need to sign the contract. And then wouldn't you celebrate
amazing.
that?
I think for consumer, it would be more like marketing related activities, like where you have to go on national TV, or maybe you have a meeting with someone who can come on as the face, and like that might be a nerve-wracking, or even pitching to investors. But you're right, it's a lot less. Each customer isn't like this big nerve-wracking experience. So that's interesting.
Who would be your ideal client? So what is the big goal for you before we let you go? What is the big exciting hairy goal you've got for yourself?
I think Virgin Atlantic would be pretty good, so I can
Richard, are you listening?
Richard Branson. That would be good. But yeah, no, we've worked with incredible brands. So to be honest, I've already worked with all the ideal ones, and
wow,
almost, other than Richard. Come on.
Come on, Richard.
It's like an ode to Richard Branson, the show.
Caspar, thank you so much for joining us on Secret Leaders
and
bringing that Richard Branson energy with you as well.
Feeling it. Cheers. Thanks, guys.